Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
First of all, I think we've all just seen the news of the tragic plane crash in India on its way to London, and all we can say at this time is our thoughts are with all of those affected as we wait for news, but shocking this morning. I also, asking Cordia, want to extend my condolences to Teachta Rose Conway-Walsh, whose mother, Philomena Conway, passed away this morning. And my thoughts are with Rose, all our brothers and sisters, and indeed her whole family at this time, difficult time for them. Oireachtas Gro a Hanam. Hanishe tan Oireachtas Trína Chéile ó hiú Tíochta dé Trína Chéile ag cropardach thart agus I geirí botún móra a cheartús an plán císa a Tanaim a bhéagah. Tá inniuachta an Oireachtas dóchreite agus an tain rud a tá cinnte na go raibh císna tá rá ar teannahéin raibh the nerd mar harú ar word good Malty. Taoiseach, the spin surrounding your chaotic proposals to reform the rental sector is unravelling day by day. The government is at sixes and sevens, caught up in damage limitation exercise because people can see right through what this plan is all about. It's about pushing up already extortionate rents even higher. And as you know, what it will do is it's going to allow landlords themselves to set the market rate for all new tenancies. You know you're opening the gates to massive rent hikes for people who are already under serious pressure. And the government know all of this. After March the 1st, these renters will be hit with massive rent increases. And this is especially true for young people. By the very nature of their lives, whether it's for work or education, they tend to move frequently. Young people, the generation who've already been shafted by your housing crisis, are going to be on the hook for even bigger rent hikes. We know students and their families, already desperate for affordable accommodation, will be absolutely fleeced when these changes kick in. In fact, the Irish Hospital Consultants Association issued a damning statement yesterday warning that your plan could impact on the essential healthcare staff required to move during their training, finding affordable accommodation. The madness of this plan, Taoiseach, is only matched by the incompetence of your government's approach. It is a complete and utter botch job. On Tuesday, you were telling the media through the department that the rent pressure zones will come into effect on March the 1st. Indeed, your minister was in prime time confirming that. That meant that tens of thousands of these renters will face the prospect of massive rent hikes as landlords move to benefit before the changes kick in. These are the people who've already seen double-digit rent increases, and now they're going to be thrown to the wolves. They can't take any more. On top of that, the government's clumsy approach runs the risks of landlords holding off putting properties back up for rent until March, when the changes were about to come in. In your haste to pander to big landlords and wealthy property funds, the government wrote this on the back of an envelope. And there was no consideration in relation to the impact for renters. It was an afterthought. That is why we're in such a big mess. So now it's panic stations from government. This morning, the government is scrambling around like headless chickens, trying to find a way to rush forward the changes to rent laws before the doll breaks for the summer. The incompetence here, Taoiseach, is off the charts. It seems that the only real thought given to this plan was how to screw over renters. And fair play, you did that with 5 golden stars. So, Taoiseach, the questions are, when are we going to see the legislation? Who are we to believe here? Is it your minister who was on prime time saying that it's not going to happen until March? Or is it now what we read in terms of the headless chicken approach that you're going to try and rush this through before the summer recess? Do you accept, Taoiseach, that existing landlords, even in existing rent pressure zones, letting to new tenants after the 1st of March, will be able to jack up rents as high as they wish to new tenants, whether they're students, whether they're trainee nurses or anybody else before they move in? And will you simply admit that delivering higher rents for landlords and investors is what this plan is really about? Because that is the outcome, without a doubt, of what you have announced.
Well, thanks very much, Deputy Doherty, for raising this important issue in relation to renters and housing supply. And can I join with you at the outset in extending my sympathy to all of those caught up in the very tragic and horrific plane crash this morning, and we think of all of them and their families, as you say, in what is an evolving story with no doubt more information to come. And I too want to extend my sympathies to your colleague, to Deputy Rose Conway-Walsh, on the loss of her mother, Oireachtas Gro a Hanam, and we think of her at this time. The government took a number of decisions this week to actually extend rental supports and protections. Let's not forget that but prior to that decision, the rent pressure zones were due to expire at the end of this year. Rental protections associated with that were due to disappear. And the government worked intensively to come up with a package that is balanced and that provides an extension of the rent pressure zones. There are so many parts of your county, in fact I think your entire county, Carndonagh, Buncrana, Lifford, Letterkenny, Milford, Glenties, Donegal Town, your constituents, who as of today are not protected by rent pressure zones. And under our proposal and under the emergency legislation that we bring forward next week, which I heard your leader say you'll support, we will extend the rent pressure zones to people living in Donegal and to people living in other parts of the country, including Carlow, Cavan, parts of Cork, Clare, Kerry, Laois, Leitrim, Longford, Mayo, Monaghan and elsewhere. So that's what we're doing. We're extending rent pressure zones nationwide. And we're also keeping, for existing tenants, that 2% rate as well. Now, it is important to recognise that the government proposals didn't fall from the sky. The government proposals are grounded in the Housing Agency's review of this matter. And the Housing Agency, for those looking in at home, is the body charged with accelerating housing supply. That's what it's asked to do. Come up with ideas and proposals as to how we can accelerate housing supply. And we've published the Housing Agency's report. It's a detailed document. I'm sure you've had the time to go through it. And it's outlined a number of findings. It's outlined how there's been evidence of meaningful price moderation due to the RPZs. It's outlined how institutional investment has reduced considerably since 2023. And it's also made a number of recommendations, including based on international literature review. It's come up with concerns around how you would actually go about reference rent and the challenges that would pose, similar challenges outlined by the ESRI. So this is the latest measure to actually help support renters. And you're continuing to misinform people. So people watching in today in rental accommodation need to know we've kept the RPZs for them. We've extended a protection that was due to leave. People in your county and other counties who don't have the protection of RPZs need to know that next week we will bring forward legislation to extend those protections. But we also have to look at what we can do in relation to supply. Because the people, the sons and daughters and other people who want to rent, they need more accommodation to be built. And therefore we've taken a balanced approach that supports renters but also provides security in terms of, and clarity and certainty in terms of those who may wish to invest in our country. And of course this is just the latest of a series of announcements we've made. Extending planning permissions, expanding exempted developments, extending the role of the Land Development Agency, the new national planning framework to have more zoned land, and very shortly a very significant capital investment in water, wastewater and energy so we can deliver that enabling infrastructure. All of these measures need to be looked at in the round to try and get a functioning housing market that can get us to the 300,000 homes we need over the next number of years. And the measures in the package we've brought forward this week is balanced. And I was at the Cabinet meeting this week. Just to be clear, it was always the intention that we would bring forward an initial bill to extend the rent pressure zones and then a further piece of legislation which we can take the time to tease through to get this right in terms of what the new system looks like from March.
Taoiseach, do you really believe that guff? Do you believe that spin? 14 years of Fine Gael government and rents have never been higher. You're absolutely crucifying renters. And what you've done with your plan, when you cut through all of the spin, is that every single new tenancy, whether it's in Ardara or in Drumcondra, it makes no difference. After the 1st of March, the landlord will be able to set the price to whatever they want. Under existing law at the minute, in a rent pressure zone, that is not allowed. This is a charter for higher rents. This is a charter for the vulture funds and for the property developers. It is benefiting landlords. That is the only people who will benefit here, because we know that tens of thousands of people move out of rental pressure zone. So tell me this, Taoiseach, and you used to be the Minister for Higher Education. You mentioned Ardara, Letterkenny and Buncrana. See the student that goes next year and rents the house in Drumcondra in a rent pressure zone. Is the landlord able to jack up that price to whatever he wants before he lets that house? The answer is yes, because what you have allowed is a free rein to every single landlord who lets a property out to a new tenant. That is the reality. And your answer to sky-high rent is to push them even further. And that is shameful. That is why so many people feel that Ireland is no longer their home. That is why we have 100,000 people born in this country now living in Australia, and you have made the situation worse.
Out of time.
So the government produced a series of measures this week that will extend for the very first time the rent pressure zones to the constituency you represent in Dáil Éireann. And you don't welcome that? Do you know, no, hang on a second. In Donegal today, there's no rent pressure zones. In the proposals brought forward by Minister Brown, the rent pressure zones will be extended to your constituency, and we'll bring forward legislation next week to do that. You didn't reference the changes in relation to no-fault evictions. You didn't recognise the fact that rent pressure zones were due to expire in December. Did we not take these measures? But the only, I'll answer, and I won't be shouted down, thank you. The only split and confusion that seems to be taking place in relation to housing policy is in Sinn Féin. Mary Lou MacDonald, your leader. No, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Hang on, I'm answering the question, thanks. Mary Lou MacDonald said she's in favour. Mary Lou MacDonald said she's in favour of rent pressure zones. Oh no, Bryn said he's not. He's in favour of reference rent. Reference rent would see people's rents be pushed up. Mary Lou MacDonald said she doesn't want institutional investment in Ireland. Owen O'Brien said yourself and himself meet them regularly. Sinn Féin are all over the place on housing. Your policy didn't work, so you don't have a housing policy now. All you have is noise and street activism. We will be taking specific measures to support students. Don't worry, we will, because we'll have their backs. We'll expand the rent pressure zone, and you need to work out why you want to bring in reference rents and push-up rents, and why you wanted to abolish the rent pressure zone. Shame.
Deputy Marie Sherlock, resume your seat. Deputy Doherty.
Because you don't want to tell
Deputy Sherlock.
Is to push rent sky high.
Deputy Sherlock, please.
You refuse to answer the question. You refuse to answer the question.
Deputy Sherlock has the floor. Deputy Sherlock, please.
Sky high rent.
Deputy Sherlock.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.